Hello everyone, welcome back again to my channel. And this is a same series of clean architecture with CQRS pattern and MediatR. So far actually we have covered. Okay, we have covered actually overview of that clean architecture and CQRS pattern and MediatR, as well as we have create a project structure. Okay, then API layer, user interface, application layer, domain layer, infrastructure layer, just create a architecture. But yeah, after that actually the next session we'll cover also like this domain layer, implementation of domain layer. Okay, but yeah, now in this session actually we'll learn okay how we can implement this application layer. Okay, so there's a many things we have to do in this application layer. So that I was thinking I will create little session for this application layer, so that we can easily digest and we can understand a better way. Okay, so before starting of this implementation, okay, I'll especially recommend, okay, if you visit first time in my channel, so please watch, or please watch my previous session, and there's a clean architecture with the mediator R and CQRS pattern. See, there's a 3 session already we have done. Okay, overview, structure, and domain layer. As well as this is an advanced series. So if you want to learn first in a basic series of clean architecture, so also there's a series, one more series over here. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's get started. Okay, and yeah, so what we have so far, we have implementation of domain layer. But yeah, we have to implement this application layer, and in this application layer actually we have already created a command and query, which is part of CQRS pattern. Okay, so we follow actually in the CQRS pattern like command and query. So in this session we'll cover first get blocks query. Okay, let me zoom in. Okay, so yeah, in this session we'll cover in this get block side, get blocks, all the get blocks. Then we'll cover next session is get blocks ID. Then we'll create blocks, delete blocks, and update blocks. Okay, so we'll cover one by one so that we can easily understand and digest. Okay, so okay, let's get started. Let me add first a class. Okay, that is called as a view model. So whatever application layer returning the data, actually convert the data of entity from the entity domain entity. So we have to convert in a domain view model. Okay, so that view model we have to create first. So let me call it to blog bm. Okay, and let me create some properties so that whatever we have want to return, we can create it. Okay, so just create. Okay, and okay, I guess I don't think we have to return that image URL. Okay, so yeah, that is fine for this demo purpose. Okay, then we have to create a query class. Okay, so how we can do that? Let me create a get blog query. Okay, and make it to public, and just inherit I request interface. Okay, see, it is inside of that mediator, inside of the mediator interface. Okay, so let's call it and see what need to pass of this here. We have to pass response. So what could be our response? We have to return response as a list of blog view model. Okay, which is just created. Okay, okay, this is a one way. There is another way actually. I think yeah, there's another way we can do that. I think instead of class we can use a record. Okay, there's a new way actually. So in this record we don't record this. Okay, like this way. See, and just do that. Okay, so yeah, there is a two way actually create a query class. the old fashion is the class and the new fashion is the record. Okay, so yeah, I'll move it to that old one also, just for knowledge purpose. I just share you. Okay, okay, and then what need to create? See, we have create a query class. So in this query class we have to implement as a one handler. Okay, so how we can do that in this CQRS pattern? So let me create get blog query handler. Okay, and then make it to public and just inherit I request handler. Okay, so that we can pass it and we can handle whatever our request, what is our response. Okay, that's why we create this handler. And what is our request? Our request is get blog query, which is just created here. Okay, so this one actually our request. So pass it to here, and then what is the response? Our response is just list of blog view model. Okay, so yeah, that is done. And then why is complaining? Because it is complaining, it is an interface, so we have to implement the method as well. Okay, whatever implement in this interface. Okay, so once you mouse over here, then you will see this, see that blurb sign, and just once you click over here, just see the option of implement interface, so you can just implement. Okay, and let me just drag there. Okay, so now see, this is a handler class, handler method is generated. Okay, there's a, by default it's just not implement exception is thrown over here implement, so we have to remove and we'll do our things. Okay, okay, now how we can get the data? Okay, in this handler, so in this handler we will get the data from our domain layer. Okay, so see, in this domain layer we already implement as a you know one abstraction repository. Okay, our blogs abstraction. Okay, so we have to inject this one and over here in this handler, and then we have to call those method. Okay, so see, direct I have create control constructor of this handler class, and what I need to do, I just inject this block repository, and then uh, control dot, so it will show me the, we have to assign of as a field. Okay, so just assign this, inject and assign create the instance of that. Okay, of the block repository, and then we can use easily. And how we can use that? Just okay, just create a wait, because it is async method, so we have to add a wait, and then whatever our you know create instance property. Okay, read only property is a blog repository, and inside the blog repository we have those method, so we have to call this one, and that's it. Okay, and then we have to store a variable, so where just blogs, so we have create a property, we have assigned this whatever return type we have assigned over here. But see, the return type is a let me zoom in. So return type is a domain entity. Okay, so we have to convert to our view model. Okay, so there's a two way. Okay, so we have to there is a two way to convert whatever our domain entity to our view model entity. So we can use that IMapper, that is a best way actually to use here. Okay, but that is take some time, so I will create a separate session for that, to convert domain entity to our view model entity. Okay, which is using IMapper. Okay, but as of now, what I will do, I will just convert just normal way, like just select use the link queue. Okay, x create entity, and just create a lambda expression, that view model, and then just author equal to x author, the name, description, and what else is pending? Is a pending, I guess, id as well. Okay, So let me fix it and then break this line to here, and also break one more line, and then finally what need to do, convert to list, so that whatever whatever data it's looping through and convert to here, and then create a list. Okay, and then finally we store a blog list. Okay, and finally we have to return. Okay, yes, so that is done. But yeah, in the next session we'll convert, we will create a IMapper, we implement a IMapper in this clean architecture. Okay, uh, in this application layer, and we'll use that one. Okay, so but as of now this is sufficient for the get blocks. So what we have to what we have to done, so just need to recap so that we can understand again. Okay, so in this get blocks query implement, what need to do, first we have to create the view model. Okay, whatever view model we have to return to UI and the presentation layer. So we have to create a block view model, and then we have to create a one query. Okay, there's a two way also this create a query, like using the record and using the class. Okay, and we use the interface I request interface, and return type is a response type is list of blocks. And then we create a handler, and in this handler again we have to use the I request handler interface, and then use the request get block query, and then whatever response we want, and we have implement that interface method. And here we have to put our logic, our business logic. Okay, so we'll inject also our abstraction class iBlock repository, and inside that iBlock repository we'll call our method, and just we have to convert and return back to there. Okay, so that is fine for this session. Next session actually, or let me just build so that is there any issue or any error, so that we can make sure there is no error. Okay, see, let me zoom in. So there is no error, it is succeed. Okay, so yeah, next session will create a session of IMapper, how we can implement IMapper and convert it to that entity, domain entity to our BU model entity. Okay, to implement that IMapper. So what need to do, actually, see, I already create a structure of that clean architecture in the application layer, and in this application layer I have already create a command, and inside the command in the mapping. So whatever the mappings we have to do in this clean architecture, we have to keep inside this mappings folder. Okay, so let me create an interface. Okay, not a class, it should be interface. So let me name it to IMap from interface. Okay, so make it to public. Okay, and it should be a generic, because I'll create a IMapper which is just generic, so that I can use any entity. Okay, and what need to do, I need to create one declaration on this interface. It is called mapping, and inside the mapping we'll use that profile. We'll pass the profile, and this profile will just assign to profile whatever profile dot will create a map, and inside the map will map, actually mapping. So just type of whatever object we'll get. Okay, so this is a generic entity, and then get type, whatever get type over there. Okay, so this is done for IMAP from interface. Okay, let me do the implementation. Okay, so how we can do that, just create a class. Okay, the class, call it to mapping profile. Okay, so let me create that mapping profile class, and just need to inherit of that profile 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 class. Okay, and we need to create, we have to create we have to create a one method. Okay, first, yeah, first we have to create a constructor. Okay, and just remove the byte namespace. Okay, and just we have to we have to we have to do some logic. Okay, so that whatever object will get from that entity, so we will map, we will actually using the reflection will extract the property and value and then we'll map over here. Okay, so that logic we have to return. So let me create private void and just give it to name, like for example apply mapping from assembly. Okay, and pass it to the parameter call is assembly, and we'll have to do some logic over here. Okay, so let me copy paste because there's a huge line of code to to do these things. Okay, so yeah, see, first we have to typecast of that interface, and then we have to trying to mapping whatever object we'll get in this method name, and then we have to do something uh, the definition and these things. Okay, and then we one by one we get the list of that assemblies types, whatever types we get. Okay, and then we create a profile argument type, and then each types actually whatever the list we are getting, so based on the each type actually we'll do one by one get the property and assign to convert over here. Okay, so this is a straightforward implementation. Okay, so it is a generic thing, so don't worry about that, just use and copy paste and use your application, that's it. Okay, and also it is a very straightforward, nothing it's so more complex. Okay, and what need to do now, just call to that method, so that whenever calling this mapping profile, so this method will call and will actually take that assembly and just map to that object. Okay, so call to apply assembly from that get assembly. Okay, assembly to get assembly. Okay, that's it, control KD, so that create make a formatting this class. Okay, that's it, and save it and just open. Okay, and that is done for implementation of IMAP from. Okay, and now how we can call this map and things. Okay, so we have already have one class of configuration service. Okay, in this configuration service actually we already create, see, the AutoMapper, AutoMapper we have registered actually AutoMapper and whatever assembly, so already we have registered. Okay, so in this case uh, we don't think we need to do anything. Okay, we already actually registered this AutoMapper assembly. Okay, so I think that resolve the dependency, we didn't do anything over here. Okay, but yeah, once we'll run, and if there is an issue we'll fix it. Okay, and okay, so let me call how we can how we can call that IMapper and convert to our domain to view model. Okay, so to that part, okay, first we have to inject that IMapper class. Okay, so how we can do that IMapper, just inject IMapper. Okay, and just create a field, and just same things we have to create a initialize, and then inside the constructor inject the IMapper and just initialize. Okay, and then what need to do, just comment out this line. Okay, and see, mapper, when you create a mapper, and this in this mapper dot we'll call the map, and inside the map or whatever things you want to map. Okay, so I want to map that list of view model, block view model, okay, block view model to what is the destination, what is the source is this. Okay, so this is a domain, see, this is a domain list of, domain entity list. Okay, and this is a source and this is a destination. Okay, so that's it. And just we can just return this one or just create a where blog list. Okay, see, the mapping is done. But one thing we have to do, this is the, see, this is a one line, it is done. So every entity we can just, we can map to directly over here like this one line code. Okay, so that is, very nice feature give us to, IMapper to, convert to our entity. Okay, and one more thing we have to do, go to block view model. Okay, and also in this block view model we have to add, that IMapper, you know we have to inherit that IMap from that interface, IMap from interface, and then pass it to whatever we have to do. Okay, so we have to do, like, we have to convert to this view model to block model. Okay, block entity. So where is, we'll get from this entity one. Okay, see, so that is done. Okay, so let me recall what we have what we have do for this, for this mapping. Okay, so first we have to create, IMap from, generic entity interface. Okay, inside this we have to create, one um, mapping declaration. Okay, signature, and then we have to create an implementation over here, that so that whatever, assembly we get that IMapper, we can extract and we can, assign to our whatever entities we have to pass. Okay, so we have done from here, and then we have to do registration over this, configuration service, so that we can, resolve the dependency whatever IMapper things we are doing. Okay, so this line helps to actually register our dependency. Okay, and finally in this view model we have to map to, IMap whatever our interface, and we pass to which one to we are trying to map. Okay, so this blog entity we are trying to map to this one, so that's why we have just add like that. Okay, so that is done. Let me try to build so that we can make sure there's no any error. Okay, see, will succeed, there is a no error. Next session will cover this get block by ID. Let's get started. So first what need to do, first I need to create a, query class, okay, of the get by block. And also why I'm creating, one by one, every why I'm creating is showing that on a one by one implementation, because every implementation like is, get blocks or get by id, get by block by id, or, create, update, delete. So every things have, some, everything is a similar, but yeah, there is a some, minor difference. So that I want to understand, I want to, help to understand, like, okay, what is the differences and how we can achieve if such kind of scenario will need in our real project. Okay, so actually it is also a real project example, so that's why I'm creating from the scratch and end to end flow. Okay, so first we need to create a class. Okay, let me create a class. Okay, the call is, get blocks by id query. Okay, so let me get that, get block by id query. Okay, create that class. Okay, and then make it internal to public. Okay, and then set as the class, and same things what we have done in our, get list of blocks query class. So I need to inject I request. Okay, and here actually what we need to return. Okay, so we have to specify the return type of here, that response. What is the response we have to return over here? So basically we have to response blogs view, okay, which is already created in my previous session. So, and also what need to do, like, see, this query we need to record one id, id parameter. Okay, so that id parameter, how we can pass that id parameter? So we have to create a one property over inside this query. Okay, it is very simple, just passing the integer. So if you want to pass an integer, so you can give that, for example, I'm just giving an example. So if I want to pass a parameter as integer, so I can set as integer. Or if you want to send a parameter as a class, so you can send a class. Or you can send a parameter as like a string. So whatever types you want to send your query, so you can send it to here. Okay, and just name it to like as here. For this, in this scenario, I'll pass it to blog id. Okay, so that I can get that blog ID from UI and get that filter that from our DB and get that response of that blocks. Okay, okay, so that is done. And then what need to do? I need to create handler. So query is done. Now need to create an handler. Okay, so let me create same as it is. Get blog by ID query handler. Okay, so same, we have to just change it to internal to public. Okay, and again we have to inject I request handler. Okay, I already explained in a detail in previous session, so please watch that one. Okay, so see, this I request handler, what it's doing actually, they expecting actually two overload method. Okay, one is request and another is a response. So what is our request? Our request is that query. What is that? We have create a query. So just call that query get blog by id query. So this is that one. Okay, and then what is the response we have to return back? So we want to return back our response is blog view model. Okay, and then what need to do? See, once you specify your request and response, okay, in this I request handler, actually it is saying like we need to implement. Okay, see, this does not implement interface because this is an interface. So we have to implement that interface. Okay, so implement an interface, just you can just implement. Okay, just extract that method. Okay, so see, this is a already generated create like a handle, and whatever request, this is our request, and this is a cancellation token, and this is our response type. Okay, and now in this handle we have to call our repository. Okay, so where is our repository? Our repository is in our domain layer. Okay, so if you go to domain layer, see, here's our repository. Okay, this is abstraction repository. So implementation would be in our that infrastructure layer. So that will cover in next upcoming section. So yeah, don't worry about that. Okay, so yeah, as of now we have to call this one. Okay, in our domain layer, in our application layer. So where is that? Okay, here handler. Okay, so how we can inject? It is very simple. Just create a constructor of that handler class. Okay, it is shortcut like CTOR and the step, and here you can just inject. Okay, pass it to the repository as a inject, and we have to register also this one in our in our API layer. Okay, in our user interface. So don't worry about that I will show you how we can do that. Okay, so yeah, and also we have to create assign a private field and assign to in this constructor. Okay, so this is done. Okay, and after that what need to do? We have to call this, we have to implement our method. Okay, so this is our repository, and in this repository call to our method. Where is our method? Get by id async. Okay, and in this async method, see, the expected is id. So where I will get that id? This id will get in this request parameter. Okay, in this request dot you will get that block id which is we created. Okay, see, this is our query, this is our request. In this request we have a request id which will be getting from user interface. Okay, so go back to here. Okay, and then see, uh, now it is complaining. Okay, so what is this complaining? Is complaining just set as the response type. Okay, so just make it to await and async. Okay, also we have to return this block view model. Okay, so but you can see, just zoom in for a little bit. Okay, so let me again. Okay, so see, the response type, let me zoom in again. Okay, so see, response type, whatever our repository is returning is a domain entity. Okay, so that needs to be converted in our that in this block view model. Okay, in our logic, business logic entity or business logic view model. Okay, so how we can do that? What need to do? Simply you just inject IMapper interface over here. Okay, and change it to the because this is not private, it is a simple like IMapper class. So just create a variable over here and control dot just assign a create that create a private variable over here and then assign to your IMapper variable. Okay, so it is simple. And then what need to do? Just store a variable, whatever response we are getting, store over here in our repository. So we are getting response of this entity, domain entity. Okay, and it is simple. We have to imapper.map. Okay, and specify c destination. What is the destination? Our destination is block view model. Okay, and then what is the source? Source is this domain entity. Okay, so we pass it over here and simply we have to return because this is our return type. Okay, so this is complete. Okay, let me build so that we can make sure everything is building fine. Okay, see, complaining, it is not complaining any error, it is not giving any error. So yeah, and just final rebuild so that we can make sure everything is fine. Okay, so see, this is done for this get by block query. Okay, and this next session will actually implement in a command, and inside the command we'll first create will you implement that create block, delete block, then update block. Okay, so till now, thank you, have a nice day, and please don't forget to subscribe. Okay, so first what need to do? First we have to create a one command. Okay, so how we can do that? Just create a class. Okay, make it name is a create blog command. Okay, and make it public. Okay, and similar what we have done in last session. Simple, we have to inject I request and then whatever our response. Okay, so whatever our response about that block view model. Okay, so here we can just pass it to block view, but as per that normally we have written in create command obviously just integer like one whatever generated id. Okay, so be up to you like what you want to return. Okay, so you can just pass simply integer or you can just pass simply string whatever things. Okay, but in this demonstration I'll just complete returning to the that block model. And in this, what is that our view block model? Just id, name, description, author. Okay, so it is simple. And what is the request parameter we will get from it? UI okay, that from UI for that, for insert of that, that blog, what need to required, we require this name. For that, user will, send user will send to the name, what is the blog name, what is the description of that blog, what is the author name, and what is that image URL. Okay, and that actually, that blog model, you can go to here, see the view model is already there, so same things. Okay, so I think here is a name, description, or author, so we can keep it to same name, description, or author. We can remove that image property. Okay, so that's it. The create, command is created. Okay, now we have to create, one handler. Okay, so that whatever command, they can proceed via handler. Okay, so let me copy this name, create block command, and right click on that, create a class, and just paste it over here and just adding to handler. Okay, create block command handler. Okay, make it to public. Okay, now again, what need to do, similar thing we have to do, I request handler, we have to inject I request handler. Okay, and here we have to pass same things again, like this two overload method. One is request, and what is the response. Okay, so what is our request? Our request is this create block command, so just pass it to create block command, and just pass it to also response, what we have, you know what we have to return back to response. So our response would be like similar block view model. Okay, and similar again, we have to implement that things. Okay, so implement interface. Okay, so now it is creating handle method, and now we have to handle whatever our, you know the business logic over here. Okay, how we can do that? Simply, we have to create a constructor. Okay, CQR, and then finally we have to inject that our domain repository. So where is our domain repository repository? See, iBlog repository. So call it to here. If you don't know about how we can, what we are doing here, so definitely I recommend, go to my previous session, or from that project setup. So definitely you can understand like why I create that inside the domain I repository or something. Okay, so that is done, and then what need to do, we have to assign a private property, and then assign in this constructor. Okay, that is a inject. You have to inject that in iBlog repository, so I did that, and then we have to call to our method. Okay, so what is our method to create a block? So this is that method, create async. Okay, and in this create async, what is expecting, this is expecting, see, domain entity block. Okay, but here, see, what is the entity, it is a different entity, so it will not expect it actually. So what need to do, we have to convert. So this is that way, like we can convert like AutoMapper, or we can directly just change it to that things like this way. Like suppose for example, where, and just store that entity, blog entity. Okay, and then new, what is that entity, it is a blog entity. Okay, and this blog entity, just pass it to our parameter. Okay, like for example, what we are getting, okay, we have as a name property, so we have to assign from that request that name. Okay, similar that description, so in this description also request dot description, and let me remove that. Okay, so that we are able to see that. Okay, then author, and author also like that request dot author. Okay, we are not passing id because id will generate automatically. So this on entity is created with this blog domain entity, so just pass it to here. Okay, and then this is a async method, so definitely we have to use that await async. Okay, and finally, so in this method, see, in this method actually repository is returning is domain entity. Okay, so again in this domain entity, what need to do, we have to convert to our view model in this model. Okay, so similar things we have to just store over here, like created or result. You can just post up the result, store as a variable as a result. Okay, and then finally what need to do, we can just map it to we have to use that mapping. Okay, so how we can do that, it is very simple. IMapper, IMapper to mapper. Okay, which is already I implement. If you don't know, so please watch my previous session. Okay, and just create a private field and assign to in this here, inject in the constructor level. Okay, and then call it to here IMapper dot map. Okay, and what is that destination, destination would be our blog view model, and what is the source, source it is our result. Okay, and finally just return as a return. Okay, see, just formatting. Okay, so this is done. Okay, so this is sufficient for this that create blog. But yeah, one more thing we'll implement in later. Okay, not here. Yeah, so that validation part. Okay, see, whatever request we are getting from UI, we are not validating, we are directly actually might be, could be could be that could be that command. So this is our command, so might be could be user send this command is as a null or empty, something like that. Okay, so that we will create some some common, we will implement some common logic. Okay, and that will actually will you we need to use for that Fluent API package. Okay, so that package will help to validate our entity whatever user is sending, so we can prevent, okay, if it user name sending is empty or something, or whatever validation we require, so we can set via that Fluent API. So that will do in later. Okay, first we'll just cover everything like create, delete, update, then finally we'll show you how can validate with the Fluent API. So that will do in the upcoming session. Okay, so till now it is fine, so let me build so that we can make sure everything is working fine. Okay, so now see, build is succeed, and also it is running perfectly. Okay, so that is done for that create blog implementation. Okay, and later on, and then next video will actually implement that update part. Okay, started to update query. Okay, so what need to do, first we have to create one command similar what we have achieved in so far last session. Okay, so simple, what need to create, that is a update blog command. Okay, and then in this update command blog, just make it public, and inject is simple like that, similar I request handler, and what is the response type, because it is update, so definitely once update we'll need to get just you know that ID. Okay, based on this ID, okay, it is updated or not, so just return as an integer, like whatever updated property, updated ID. Okay, so we can return it over here. And okay, now what is the response type? Okay, so means request type, like whatever request we are getting from that user, so that we have to pass over here. Okay, so where we'll get that, that should be up to as per your uh, requirement. But yeah, in here in this here actually we use one blog view model. Okay, so where is I created that one, I created I think somewhere in here. Okay, yeah, see, the blog view model. So like in this property we have to get from UI so that I can update those property in our database. Okay, so create those property. Okay, so in update command, what we'll get from the user: ID, name, description, author. Same things we have to update in our DB. Okay, so that is done. Command is created, and now what need to do, we have to create a handler, update command handler. So how we can do that? Create a class, just put some name like update block command handler. Okay, and make it to public, similar fashion. And now again need to inject I request handler. I request handler. Okay, it is getting from this MediatR. And also the here we have to pass two overload method. Okay, one is request, one is response. Okay, so what is our request? Same things, like our request is update block command, which is just we have created. Okay, and then what is the response? We have to return back our integer. Okay, so let me return the integer only. Okay, and then what need to do, actually this request handler actually complaining. Okay, need to implement their signature. Okay, so what is the signature? Just implement interface. So this is our signature. Need to implement handle. Okay, and how we can do that? We have to call our repository where actually we have to send our data. Okay, so create a constructor for that, so that we can inject our I repository, this I blog repository. Okay, so let me inject and create a variable, and also create a private variable and assign to in the constructor level. Okay, so that is done. Now we have to call our repository method, which will update our blog entity. Okay, so how we can do that? Just blog repository update async, and in this update async, actually see there's a two things actually we need to pass. Let me zoom in. Okay, it is okay. let me let me zoom in. Okay, see, uh, first parameter is an ID and second one is a domain entity. Okay, so that two things we have to pass. Okay, so first ID will get from that request ID. Request.id is our blog ID. Okay, and then another one is, see, the another one is a domain entity. Okay, so domain entity, how we can pass it? Like simply new, or we can just create this entity and separately, then we can pass it over here. Like for example, update blog entity. Okay, and just create that domain blog entity. Okay, and just pass it to whatever our parameter, whether like request id to request id, author to author, and description to description, and name is to name. Okay, and id author name. Okay, yeah, that is fine, that is sufficient. And finally just copy this one and pass it to here. Okay, and what is the return type of this method? This is return type of this method integer, so make it to. Also this response our return type is this method, handler method is a integer, so just simply return with the await. Okay, and async. That is done. Okay, so let me build so that we can make sure is nothing we have missed over here. Okay, so build is completed. Okay, so that implementation also done. So just recap what we have done. Okay, because this is very important. Simply first what need to do, you have to create a update command. Okay, and then inject to I request handler, I request interface. okay, which is getting from the mediator R, okay, and we have to pass that whatever response. So in this scenario, our update scenario, we get the response in integer, okay. And how we can decide, okay, what is the response we are getting, okay. So whatever implementation you have done in the domain, okay, not a domain, actually just whatever your repository method, like that time we can decide it, okay, what kind of response we have to return, okay, that method. So same things, okay, we can just pass it over here. And then we have to, once complete your command, update block model command, then we have to create a handler, okay. And that's that handler again, we have to inject that I request handler. And I request handler also getting this expected this two method, to overload method, and a request and response. And that request is our update command block, and response is whatever in written type, okay. Based on this, actually we create a you know um, implementation method in this I request handler, okay. And here we will put our business logic, okay, and then call to our repository method, so that whatever interact in database, this will do in this abstraction I repository, okay. And that get back the response over here, and then get back to UI, okay. So that is done, okay. And the next section will implement in this application layer the delete block. Let's get started. Okay, so what need to do first, we have to create that delete command, okay. So let me create a class, okay. We can put a name as it is delete blog command, okay. And similar what we have done in last session, we have to do same things, because delete also similar to, not similar to update, but yeah, response type is the same. So we'll call that I request interface, and then response type would be a integer, okay. And what is the request parameter would be in this delete command, that we would be in a id, okay. So based on this id, like suppose I want to delete a blog 5 5 which is I contain id 5, okay. So that we have to getting from UI, so that command we have to specify that parameter, okay. So that is done, okay. After that, what need to do, we have to create a handler class, okay. Just create a handler like similar delete blog command handler, okay. Make it to public, and similar fashion we have to do I request handler. And in this I request handler, we have to pass the query that request, that is a delete block command, okay. And then response is integer, okay. We have to try to implement that method as well, a request handler, okay. So now we have to implement here like our business logic, okay. So how we can do that, simply create the constructor, okay. Just inject your abstraction layer repository, name is iBlock repository, okay. Create a variable, assign that variable at a private field, and inject in the constructor level. That is done, okay. So far we have did, okay. And now just call it to here, that iBlock repository, that delete method, and delete method expected is id, okay. So where is our id, we can get id from that command request.id, okay. And what is the response type of this method, it's an integer. So just uh, store as an integer, or yeah, no, we don't require to store as an integer, because just it is also response type of integer. So definitely just put that await async, because this is a async method. So also just pass it a return type, okay. That's it. So delete command also implementation done, okay. So just recap what we have done. Simply we have to create a command, okay, delete command. And the delete command we have to pass, okay, what is the response type. So response type would be as our integer. And what is the request parameter? That request parameter is the id, okay. So we have to pass over here, and then we have to create a handler. So in this handler we have to specify whatever command we just created, okay. So that mention that as a request, and response would be a integer, okay. Based on this request handler we have to implement that handle method, okay. And in this handler method we have to inject, we have to call actually our domain layer abstraction repository, okay, which will contain actually that delete data from this from the entity or in the database, okay. And once it's completed, it's returned back to our id, okay. That's simple. Let me build so that we can make sure everything is looks good, okay. So as of now it looks good, okay. So now see, in the application layer, you know, we have complete the implementation of application layer, okay. So we have complete command, we have complete the query, we have also complete mapping. But yeah, we have to need to do something for the validation, but yeah, that will do in the later, okay. And because that is a not a part over here, but yeah, that is a something different which is required, yeah. Definitely we do that in our upcoming session, okay. So far we are good. And now in the next session we'll implement actually infrastructure layer, okay. So how we can implement an infrastructure layer, okay. So till now, thank you, have a nice day, and please don't forget to subscribe.